Today on Let's Automate It, it's part one of getting to know n8n and building something cool. Today, we're going to build a Telegram bot that's going to give us the weather on demand. Let me show you what I mean. You're going to have one of these by the end of this three-part mini course. So I'm in a group right here. You're welcome to join this group. Description down below. It's called Let's Automate It. And a member of this group is a chatbot. And if I type in the words send weather, if I can get the spelling right, if we type in the word send weather and we hit enter, almost instantly we get a weather force coming back. The weather forecast here is for Cape Town, and you can see we've got date and time. This is at 15:34. This is right now when I'm recording this video. The weather in Cape Town today is fantastic. It's clear skies, maximum temperature of 19. Humidity, we've got a wind direction of 180 degrees, which is coming from the south. We have no clouds in the sky, and there's sunrise and sunset. And by the end of this three-part mini course, you are going to know how to build this, but more importantly, you're going to have a fundamental understanding of how n8n works and how the various nodes fit together so you can manipulate these nodes and have it work for yourself. This is the completed workflow we're seeing on the screen now. It's going to take us 3 videos to get to this point, but it's pretty straightforward. We have a incoming Telegram node that's represented by this. Then we do a if this, then check. We want to check for some criteria. We're hitting a third-party API tool. What does that mean? That means we're going and getting information from some other service. In this case, it's called OpenWeather. We're getting that information. We're manipulating that data through these 2 nodes. We'll cover that in another video. We're setting our variables. This sounds complex, but follow along with me. It's going to be straightforward. And then we're sending the information back to Telegram. The result is what you've just seen. And as I mentioned, you're going to have the ability to manipulate this to do a host of other automations. But we're going to start simple in this course. We're not going to dive deep into this. What we're going to do today is build a workflow together where we're going to get weather information and we're going to send it to ourselves via email, nice and simple. In lesson 2, we'll get more complex. And in lesson 3, we'll actually build out the final flow with the bot. With that being said, let's get started. Now, if you are new to n8n and you've just installed it, you will probably, once you've logged in and set up your account with yourself, by the way, if you don't know how to set up n8n, go and check out the video on this channel of how to install your very own n8n. Go and get that done. But once you're started, you're going to have a screen similar to this. I have a list of all the workflows I have on this n8n. You're going to have no workflows, but you will have this big button here that says Add Workflow. Let's go ahead and click on that to get started. And here is our canvas. Let me give you a quick tour of what's going on here. This big plus sign on the side over here opens up a tray where we can go and find all the nodes we're after. Down here, we have the ability to zoom in and zoom out of our canvas, and we can drive and drag things around and make it work. Let me show you what I mean by building. Let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to go and do is get an OpenWeather node. Now, n8n has so many integrations that invariably what the tool you're looking for, it's probably got an integration already. In this case, we do. I just typed in the word open, and there it is, OpenWeatherMap. So I'm going to open that, and here we have a trigger node, which is, this can be used to trigger an action, or an action node that happens as a result of something else triggering the flow. So in our example that I showed you earlier, we sent a message via Telegram. The message was the trigger. The action was to go and get the weather from OpenWeatherMap. So we need an action here. So I'm going to grab that node and boom, there it is on the screen, ready to go. It's attached itself to this start node to start with. I'm actually just going to remove that. You can see I can remove this connection super easy. Just hover over this, hit the little garbage can, and it disappears. I'm going to highlight this as well and get rid of that. We will need a trigger node, but for now, we're just going to start with the core piece of this workflow, and that's that OpenWeatherMap. So as you can see, I can drag this around on the map, on the canvas, I should say, nice and easy. And if I double click on it, it's going to open this interface, which is how we manipulate and configure our various nodes. So we've got a couple of things here, but the first thing we want to start with is we need a credential to connect with. That's an API key, a password, if you will. So we need to go and get one of those. How do we do that? Well, n8n tells you how to do it. So I'm just going to drop this down. I've got a couple of APIs already set up, but let's go ahead and create a new credential. So I'm going to hit this button, create new credential. Do it with me now. And here we go. We've opened up a credential interface here. This is just a place where we're going to save our password, and then it's going to save it in n8n so we can use it in the future without having to go through this whole process. So, but we need help filling out these docs. I don't know how to do this. Let's find out how. I'm going to click Open Docs. And now we're going to get some information from n8n. They've kindly shown us how to do it. So you can read through these. I'm going to just jump right through and show you how to do it, but you can come back and read through this documentation. So the first thing we need to do is actually head over to OpenWeather. So we're gonna do that. So let's hit that link. And there we go. We are now on openweathermap.org. Now, it's very straightforward. This is a free service. You do not have to pay for it. If you need some added features, you can pay for it. But we're just using this for demonstration purposes. So I've already created an account. It's very easy. I'm not going to show you how to do that. You guys probably know how to create an account. If you can set up a Gmail account, you can create an account here. So I've got an account created, and I verified my email address. And now if I come down here, and this is my account, and I can see my API keys. So I'm going to click on that, and here's a host of my API keys. But let's create a brand new key. So let's go n8n. Let's call this n8n weatherbot. We'll call that. We're going to generate a API key, and boom, there we've got n8n weatherbot key. It is made. It is working. Let's now copy that. We are going to head back to our automation. And we're going to paste that access token in here, and we're going to hit save. And what this will do is test whether this token is actually working. Let's see how that works. All right, it's saved. Fantastic. Looks like it's working. We'll exit out of this, and now we can see that I did forget to rename that credential. That's okay. Let's go back into that box right there, and let's just rename this credential. Why am I renaming it? Because I want to be able to identify it. So I'm going to call this OpenWeatherMap, and I'm going to call this WeatherBot. It doesn't matter what you call it. This is just for your own record, so you can recognize what it is. That's good enough for me. Let's click Save, and we can close out of this. And now we're back at the configuration screen of that weather node. And you can see I've got a host of credentials. I've been using it for other things, but we're going to use this WeatherBot. There we go. So that's set up now. Now, what operation do we want? What task do we want it to do? We've got a little drop-down little menu here. We can get the current weather, or we can get a 5-day forecast. For today, we're just going to work with the current weather to keep things simple. Format, wherever you are in the world, you can check the checkout, change whatever makes sense for you, but I'd recommend stay with metric. That just means you and I are going to be in sync as we configure this, because we're going to do some calculations, some manipulation of this data in videos 2 and 3. And if you're working with metric, it's going to be a little bit simpler to follow along. So just choose metric for now. And city name, I'm in Cape Town, so I'm going to keep this with Cape Town. And I suggest you do the same as well, but you will be able to come back and change this to wherever you are in the world. Choose the city where you are, and choose one of the main cities. We're not sure if OpenWeatherMap is covering every small city in the world, but I'm sure if you go and check out the OpenWeatherMap documentation, they'll tell you what cities they cover. But I know they cover Cape Town, so let's leave it at that. And I want it in English, so we're going to leave it there. And now I can test setup. We're going to see if we hit the test setup, it's going to check whether it can actually retrieve any information. So let's see what happens when we hit test setup. Your data that's coming into this node, and here's the data that's going to be passed on from this node to the next one. This is data here that's coming in a table format, and you can see we've got the coordination, the cohorts. This is the Latin longitude of Cape Town. If I scroll here, we can see the weather, clear sky. Here's the temperature information, visibility. We've got wind in meters per second, degrees of the wind, 180 degrees, that's from the south. We've got a host of information here, and we can view this information in different layouts. This is in a table. We can view it as a JSON file. Now, I'm going to keep this simple. I'm not going to dive into technical knowledge. This is for non-techies, but just letting you navigate through this. And as I work with this data, it's going to start to make sense. I'm not going to dive into explanations about this. We can also look at the schema. And here it is. I find this one particularly useful. It makes sense to me. I'm not particularly technical. And here we have our information coming through. But for now, all we want to achieve is, can we successfully get data from OpenWeatherMap? And the answer is yes, we can. Fantastic. So I'm just going to click out of this. All right. Let's give this let's give this name, this workflow, a name. So I've just clicked in there, and let's just call it weather report by email, because that's what we're doing right now. So just hit enter, and now we've got that, and there's a save button here, but it's auto saved. Okay, let's just drag this away, give ourselves a little bit more space. All right, all well and good. We've got a API key into OpenWeatherMap that's going to get information for us, but let's get that information every day, for example. So we're going to want to add some kind of timer that's going to act as our trigger. Now, in our end workflow that we'll get to at the end of part 3, we're going to be having a Telegram bot, and we're going to trigger this by sending a message to that Telegram bot. But in the early stages, I want to use something that's called a cron job. It's a fancy word for a trigger, for a timing trigger. So I'm just going to type in here cron, and here it is, scheduled trigger. So you could have written in here scheduled trigger as well, and it's got this little lightning bolt next to it. That means it is a trigger. It's going to initiate a workflow. So let's click onto that. I'm going to click out of that. It opens up straight into the configuration screen, but let's just drag this across, and we're going to join these two up. Just click and drag, simple as that. Now let's configure this. How often do we want this to trigger? We want it with this to trigger every day, but we could have it trigger every couple of seconds, whatever the case may be. Let's have it trigger. We'll come back and manipulate this, but for now, let's trigger every day. And we don't want days between trigger. We want it to trigger every single day. And let's say it triggers at 8 a.m. in the morning when we wake up. And if I made this 30, it would be 8:30 in the morning. If I made this 0, it'll be 8 o'clock in the morning. We'll come and manipulate this to test it. But yeah, if we hit test setup here, it's going to run it. So now we know that's working, and that'll be the trigger through to here. And if we go and click here now and I hit test setup, you can actually see data coming in. This is the data that's coming in, just the data from the cron job, from the trigger, giving us date and time, and it's Saturday, and the dates, and South Africa plus is UTC plus 2 hours, a whole bunch of interesting information. And now I click test setup here, we're going to get our weather information. So that's fantastic. We're set up. Let's click save. And we're kind of getting close to our workflow already. So there's those two test up. Let's test them together. Right now we've been clicking into each node and testing each node independently. But if I hit test workflow here, it's going to run, boom. It ran the cron job immediately. Even though I set it for 8 o'clock, because I actually hit the test workflow button, it triggered immediately. And it went and got information from OpenWeather and returned that information to us. Fantastic. But we want to be able to read this data. We don't have to log into n8n to see this. So I'm going to click on here, which, by the way, you would have noticed is the equivalent to clicking on that button. Does the same thing. And let's configure an email node. So I've just typed an email here. We can use Gmail. There's a bunch of different options in here. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to use their standard email service. And we are now going to set up an email to send to us. Now, we need a credential. This n8n doesn't have built-in email. We need to give it an email account. Now, if you've probably got an email account, if you're using Outlook, for example, you've probably got email credentials that with a password and such like that you can set up. And let me show you how to do that quickly, but I'm not going to go through this in detail. I'm going to go create new credential. And you can see here, these are your standard fields when you're setting up an email account. A username, which is typically your actual email address, a password for that email address. This would probably, your host would be the name that your ISP, whoever's hosting your website, wherever you're getting your email services from, they'll give you that host. There'll be a port as well, 465 is most common, and whether this is going to be a secure line or an unsecure line. I'm not going to dive into this. It's a little bit different for everyone else, but you can get this information from whoever is supplying you with email at the moment. Go and set up another email address, perhaps n8n at the name of your website. ask for help from your ISP, from your website provider, your email provider to do this. But you can come and set that up. I've got one set up, so I'm just going to click out of this. And I've got a credential. I'm going to use save time at letsautomate.biz. That is set up. And I'm going to send it from that very address, save time at automateit.biz. I'm the typo king, as you may have noticed. Let me send it to my Gmail address. All right, that's my email address, and let's give it a subject line. Today's weather. All right, nice and simple there. And we can build a nice HTML email. That's complex. If you understand what HTML is, go for it. But we're going to do a nice simple text mail. All right, and we're going to say something like, here is today's weather for, and we know this is for Cape Town, but let's learn our first little feature here. So on the left-hand side, our incoming data, we have all this data here, and we can now use something called variables. We can have, here is today's weather for, and I'm going to insert a variable here, and whatever data matches that variable will be what shows in the email. So in this case, I'm going to scroll here, and I'm just looking for the word Cape Town. There it is, Cape Town. I'm just going to drag that over into this box and let go. And there it's inserted a variable into that. Here is today's weather for, and here's this little, we call this an expression, JSON named n8n, and that is Cape Town. Now, if we had set this up for Johannesburg or for London or for New York or for Frankfurt, it would display Frankfurt. But whatever comes in on this variable is what will work. And we can see here that it's saying Cape Town. If it's green, you can see it's hovered green. That means it's getting nice data from it. If it's red, and I'll give you an example, or goes blank like it is here, it's not happy. Something's wrong with the format. But invariably, you don't have to worry about it. If you just drag it in like I've done now, it's going to work just fine. Let's hit enter here, and let's go minimum temp. And we're just building our mail here. So now I'm just scrolling through this and go, oh, there's minimum temperature. So I'm going to drag that in there and drop, boom. It's putting an extra space in, and now that's taken care of. Okay, let me just scroll to the end of that. And we're going to repeat this process over and over again, just pulling in the variables that we want to put into the email we're going to send to ourselves. Oh, typo king strikes again. All right, max temperature, we're just going to drag that in. Boom, it's done. Let me make this a little bigger so it's easier to work in. And now what else have we got here? Let's pull in, okay, here we've got some weather description work. So we're going to call it weather, I'm going to call this weather overview. You can call it whatever you like. And let's just drag in that. There it is, weather overview. Let's call the next one weather description. And I'm repeating the same thing over and over again. There's description. Boom, popped in there. Make that bigger again so it's easier to work with. Weather description. What else have we got here? Wind. Let's put in here wind strength. Let's drag in that wind strength. Now, when I first started doing this, I noticed, I go, what is this 5.14 number? I dug around in the OpenWeather website, and I found out this is meters per second. If you remember, we set this up in metric. That's going to be important because in video 2, we're going to manipulate this data so we can actually convert units of wind speed and temperature and direction into something we're more familiar with, because none of us really work in meters per second. We probably work in kilometers per hour or knots or miles per hour, something like that. But look out for how we do that in lesson 2. What else have we got here? Wind direction. This is going to be something else that we're also going to manipulate in the next video, because right now we are pulling in the direction of the wind, and that's coming in degrees. You can see how the email's building up beneath here, this little drop down that's showing wind direction 180. So that's 180 means it's coming from the south, the southerly wind, and we're probably more used to calling winds northeast, southeast, southerly winds. So we'll figure out. I'll show you a very cool trick about how we can convert this number into a northeast, southwest, whatever it might be, and we'll be covering that in the next video. Oh, I see a spelling mistake. Let's go and change that. What else have we got here? We've done the wind. And And we've got sunrise and sunset. I'm not going to pull those in, but here, interesting, it's got sunrise and sunset. That's a time, and you can see this time doesn't make sense. Very odd. We're going to be breaking down how to actually turn that into a proper time that we can make sense of. And we know it's coming in for Cape Town, but we've got a pretty decent email here. So that's looking good. So why don't we test setup? If I test setup now, it's going to send us this email. Now, of course, this is only going to work if you've gone to the trouble of setting up your email credentials. So if you haven't done that step yet, please get through that step and we can come back and do that. If you don't have an email to set up, don't worry. What I'm trying to show you here is the ability to use variables, to drag variables into a node and manipulate them. In a later video, we're going to put this into a Telegram bot. We'll do something similar. So if you don't have email, just hang in there, follow the steps here. Don't actually set up the email. You will be able to do this and learn these lessons with a Telegram bot that we'll be covering in the final video of this 3-part series. But let's go and create the test setup and see what happens. All right, output. We have an output here. It's been accepted. This looks like it's worked just fine. So I'm going to go check my email and see that this has come in. Let's go and do that. Oh, one little trick before we go and check our email is something I learned the hard way. And let me show with you here is use this little add option section. Now we're going to go add option. And here we've got this little append n8n attribution. Click on that. And now we've got this little slider. Now, what is this all about? This inserts automatically by default if you set up email. n8n inserts its link as a little bit of advertising for itself into your email. Now, many people are using n8n and probably using it to send spam emails, etc., etc. So this link hasn't got the best reputation. So sometimes your emails won't arrive. They'll be caught by spam. Now, I don't use n8n for emailing. There's dedicated email tools for that, and we will unpack that in videos to come. But a little trick I learned here is just go to add option and choose that append ATM and n8n attribution and just turn it off. In other words, it's going to remove that n8n link from our email. So let's go and test that step again and send it through without that attribution this time. And let's see if we get an email. And there it is. It has come in. Let's open up that mail. And there it is. Here is today's weather for Cape Town. So popped in. We have a successful flow. It's working. We tested it one by one. Let's go back and test the full flow as it runs. So we're going to click out of this. Let's hit that save button. And let's just hit this little trash icon here. That's just going to delete the current flows. And I'm going to test this workflow once more. And we should see data flow from here to here to here very quickly. It's a very fast workflow. Boom, there it goes. It's busy sending the email and the email has been sent off. So as a reminder, this scheduled trigger is to go off at 8 o'clock every single morning. If you wanted to test if this is working, you could go and set this for 10 minutes from whatever time you are busy working on this flow. But to get this flow to work, right now it's in kind of testing mode. To get this to work, you're going to want to activate it. So we're going to activate this flow and make sure it's saved. And there we go. You have now built your own basic first n8n flow where you have a scheduled trigger to send you a weather map forecast every morning at 8:30. So fantastic. Well done. Congratulations. Now, I want to recommend that you join our community. I've got descriptions down in the bottom of this video here. Definitely go check that out. Click through, look at our community. We're building a community of like-minded individuals who enjoy AI, and we're going to bring some AI into these videos. It's going to be fantastic. You're really going to enjoy that. Enjoy AI, enjoy n8n, enjoy automations. We're going to have a host of supporting documentations. You're actually going to be able to install, actually almost cut and paste complete complex workflows that we're going to be building together. So you don't have to even do the build. You can just go and grip it. We're going to have the prompts in there for the AI tools. We're going to have a whole host of incredible, amazing data that's going to help you on your journey of understanding AI and automation. And we're only charging $10 per month for the first 100 people. It's just starting. So if you want to be a founder member, if you want to lock in $10 a month for the rest of your life in our community, the price is going to go up as we go past 100, as we go past 500 and 1,000. So highly recommend jump into our community where you can grip and understand all of these things, get one-on-one help. We've got a whole host of amazing things planned. Help us build that community. But that's it, folks. Now, next video, we are going to dive into getting more sophisticated with this. We are going to manipulate some of the data. You can see the data coming in here. We've already noticed we've got meters per second for wind. We've got odd sunrise and sunset times. And I'm going to show you how we can work with that data to put it into something more useful and send it off to an email. And then in the final video for this, we're going to bolt on the Telegram bot. So we don't have to rely on email. We can get this on the go, on our phones, on Telegram. So look forward to that. Make sure you subscribe, hit that bell, and look out for the next video. Thanks for working with me, and I'll catch you on the next video.